to.
On this idea that the president and his administration may be not necessarily on the same page, that the president himself may be somewhat divorced from this prospect, or at least maybe a sort of an inscrutable part of it, I also want to ask about this reporting that we've got from the New York Times as of this weekend, that the U.S. Cyber Command has developed sort of remarkable new offensive capacity against Russia. But I was very struck by a couple of paragraphs deep into that story in which Pentagon and intelligence officials tell the Times that the president probably wasn't briefed on that, in part because it's about Russia, and senior national security officials, including military officials, don't trust the president to have sensitive information, particularly when it comes to Russia, because they're worried that he would either countermand it or he would talk to foreign officials about it. That just strikes me as both like sort of half comforting that they're trying to protect our national security from that prospect, but also deeply, deeply wrong in terms of the way our constitutional chain of command and constitutional authority is supposed to work here.
It's really not good. And you know, as you reported, this was probably a deliberate leak to the New York Times by national security officials. They wanted Russia to know that we have this capability. So the message is, if you hit us, if you hit our civilian population, we have the capability to do the same thing to you. And then the next day, because the president is peeved over something in the article, he tweets out that none of this is true. He's telling the Russians, no, we don't have this capability. And you can't have this mixed messaging on an issue as serious as the issue that you laid out in your earlier report. This is complicated. As you said, you know, this would be an attack on civilian infrastructure, on hospitals, on transportation. We should probably, as in the Cold War, having established deterrence, we should probably start thinking about arms control, about forging some sorts of agreements about not using this kind of weapon first. But all of that is undermined when the president is not with the program, when his ego is wounded by a story, and then he comes out and tells our adversary that, well, maybe we don't have this capability. What are they supposed to think?
Congressman Tom Malinowski, member of the House Foreign Relations Committee, former Assistant Secretary of State. Thank you for your service as a public servant, as particularly this new chapter that you're in Congress. I really appreciate you making time for us tonight.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
All right.